The information provided indicates that a message was edited on May 5, 2003 at 9:16 p.m. The message was edited by a user with the email address. This information could be relevant in various contexts, such as tracking changes to online content, auditing user activity, or investigating potential security breaches. Let's delve deeper into the potential implications and related technologies. Firstly, message editing is a common feature in many online platforms, including forums, content management systems, and email applications. This feature allows users to correct errors, update information, or refine their contributions after they have been initially posted or sent. The ability to track message edits is crucial for maintaining transparency and accountability in online communication. Secondly, the timestamp associated with the message edit provides valuable context. In this case, the edit occurred on May 5, 2003 at 9:16 p.m. This information can be used to correlate the edit with other events or activities that occurred around the same time, potentially revealing patterns or relationships. Thirdly, the user's email address serves as an identifier for the individual who made the edit. This information can be used to retrieve additional information about the user, such as their name, location, or other contributions to the platform. However, it is important to note that email addresses may not always be accurate or up to date, and privacy considerations should be taken into account when handling personal information. In terms of related technologies, several tools and techniques can be used to track and analyze message edits. Version control systems such as Git are commonly used in software development to track changes to code files. These systems allow developers to revert to previous versions of a file, compare different versions, and identify the specific changes that were made. Similarly, content management systems often provide built-in features for tracking revisions to web pages or articles. These features allow administrators to view the history of changes, compare different versions, and restore previous versions if necessary. Database auditing is another technique that can be used to track changes to data stored in databases. Database auditing involves logging all modifications to data, including the user who made the change, the timestamp of the change, and the specific data that was modified. This information can be used to reconstruct the history of changes to the database and identify any unauthorized or malicious modifications. Security, information, and event management SIEM systems are used to collect and analyze security logs from various sources, including servers, network devices, and applications. These systems can be configured to detect and alert on suspicious activity, such as unauthorized message edits or attempts to tamper with data. In the context of message editing, SIEM systems can be used to monitor user activity, detect anomalies, and identify potential security threats. Digital forensics is a field that involves the investigation of digital evidence to uncover facts related to a crime or incident. Digital forensics techniques can be used to analyze message edits to determine the who, what, when, where, and how of the edit. This information can be used to build a timeline of events, identify potential suspects, and gather evidence for legal proceedings. To further elaborate on the potential implications of message editing, consider the following scenarios. Firstly, in a collaborative writing environment, message editing allows multiple users to contribute to a document or article simultaneously. Tracking message edits is essential for resolving conflicts, identifying inconsistencies, and ensuring the accuracy and integrity of the content. Secondly, in a regulatory compliance context, message editing may be subject to specific requirements. For example, in the financial industry, regulations may require that all changes to financial records be documented and auditable. Thirdly, in a legal discovery context, message edits may be relevant evidence in a lawsuit or investigation. Attorneys may need to examine message edits to determine the intent of the author, the timing of the changes, and the impact of the edits on the overall content. In summary, the information provided indicates that a message was edited on May 5, 2003 at 9:16 p.m. by a user with the email address. This information can be used to track changes to online content, audit user activity, and investigate potential security breaches. Related technologies include version control systems, content management systems, database auditing, security information and event management systems, and digital forensics. The implications of message editing can vary depending on the context, but it is essential to maintain transparency, accountability, and security in online communication. Furthermore, let's consider specific technologies in more detail. Version control systems like Git use algorithms to efficiently store and track changes to files. These algorithms, such as delta compression, identify the differences between versions of a file and store only those differences, rather than storing complete copies of each version. This significantly reduces storage space and improves performance. Content management systems, such as WordPress or Drupal, often use database tables to store revisions of web pages or articles. Each revision is stored as a separate record in the database, along with metadata such as the author, timestamp, and a description of the changes. Database auditing tools can be configured to capture a wide range of events, including data modifications, schema changes, and user logins. The audit logs can be stored in a separate database or file, and can be used to generate reports or alerts. Security information and event management SIEM systems often use correlation rules to identify suspicious activity. These rules define patterns of events that are considered to be indicative of a security threat. For example, a correlation rule might be defined to detect multiple failed login attempts followed by a successful login from a different IP address. Digital forensics investigators use a variety of tools and techniques to analyze digital evidence. These tools include disk imaging software, file carving software, and data recovery software. Investigators may also use specialized techniques such as timeline analysis to reconstruct the sequence of events that occurred on a computer or network. Considering the legal aspects of message editing, it is important to be aware of relevant laws and regulations. For example, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act requires publicly traded companies to maintain accurate and auditable financial records. This includes ensuring that all changes to financial records are properly documented and approved. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act (HIPAA) sets standards for the protection of sensitive patient information. This includes requirements for access control, data encryption, and audit trails. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act (FERPA) protects the privacy of student education records. This includes requirements for parental consent before releasing student information to third parties. In addition to these laws, there may be other regulations that apply to message editing depending on the industry and jurisdiction. It is important to consult with legal counsel to ensure compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. When implementing a message editing system, it is important to consider the security implications. Access control should be implemented to ensure that only authorized users can edit messages. Data encryption should be used to protect the confidentiality of messages. Audit trails should be maintained to track all changes to messages. Security assessments should be conducted regularly to identify and mitigate potential vulnerabilities. In conclusion, message editing is a common and important feature in many online platforms. By understanding the technologies and techniques involved in tracking and analyzing message edits, it is possible to improve transparency, accountability, and security in online communication. It is also crucial to be aware of the legal and regulatory requirements that apply to message editing. Furthermore, let us consider the practical aspects of implementing message editing features in different types of systems. Firstly, for web applications, message editing can be implemented using client-side scripting languages such as JavaScript and server-side programming languages such as Python, Java, or PHP. The client-side scripting can be used to provide a rich user interface for editing messages, while the server-side programming can be used to store and retrieve messages from a database. Secondly, for mobile applications, message editing can be implemented using native mobile development platforms such as iOS and Android, or cross-platform development frameworks such as React Native or Flutter. The mobile development platforms provide access to device features such as the camera and microphone, which can be used to enhance the message editing experience. Thirdly, for desktop applications, message editing can be implemented using desktop application development frameworks such as .NET, Java Swing, or Electron. The desktop application development frameworks provide a wide range of UI components and API that can be used to create sophisticated message editing applications. When designing a message editing system, it is important to consider the user experience. The user interface should be intuitive and easy to use. The editing features should be comprehensive and flexible. The system should provide feedback to the user about the status of the edit. In addition to the user interface, it is also important to consider the performance of the message editing system. The system should be responsive and efficient. The editing operation should be performed quickly. The system should be able to handle large messages without performance degradation. To optimize the performance of a message editing system, it is important to use efficient data structures and algorithms. For example, when storing messages in a database, it is important to use appropriate indexing techniques to speed up data retrieval. When performing text editing operations, it is important to use efficient string manipulation algorithms to minimize processing time. It is also important to consider the scalability of the message editing system. The system should be able to handle a large number of users and messages without performance degradation. To improve the scalability of a message editing system, it is important to use distributed computing techniques. For example, the message editing system can be deployed on multiple servers, and the load can be distributed across the servers. The system can also use caching techniques to reduce the load in the database. In addition to the technical aspects of message editing, it is also important to consider the social aspect. Message editing can be used to improve communication and collaboration. However, it can also be used to manipulate or distort information. It is important to use message editing responsibly and ethically. When editing a message, it is important to be transparent about the changes that are being made. The original message should be preserved, and the changes should be clearly marked. It is also important to be respectful of the original author's intent. The changes should not alter the meaning of the message without the author's consent. In conclusion, message editing is a powerful tool that can be used to improve communication and collaboration. However, it is important to use message editing responsibly and ethically. By considering the technical, social, and ethical aspects of message editing, it is possible to create systems that are both effective and beneficial. And to further this understanding, let us delve into specific code examples and configurations relating to auditing message edits. In a PHP and MySQL environment, you could implement message edit tracking with the following steps. Firstly, create a database table to store message edit history. This table might include fields such as message ID, user ID, edit timestamp, and original message. Secondly, when a message is edited, insert a new row into the edit history table with the relevant information. You might serialize the original message content to store it efficiently. Thirdly, to display the edit history, query the edit history table for a given message ID and present the results in a user-friendly format. An example PHP snippet for inserting edit history could be as follows: $message ID equals $post message ID, $user ID equals $session user ID, $original message equals get message content, $message ID, $edit timestamp equals datemdhi, $serialized message equals serialized, $original message, $SQL equals insert into message edit history message ID, user ID, edit timestamp, original message values, $message ID, $user ID, $edit timestamp, $serialized message, miscally query, $connection, $SQL. In the Java and PostgreSQL environment, the process is similar. Firstly, create a corresponding database table in PostgreSQL to track edits. Secondly, use JDBC to connect to the database and execute SQL queries to insert edit history. Thirdly, retrieve and display the edit history using JDBC queries. Here is an example Java snippet: try string message ID equals request. Get parameter message ID int user ID equals session. Get attribute user ID. String original message equals get message content message ID, timestamp edit timestamp equals new timestamp system. Current time-mail is string SQL equals insert into message edit history message ID, user ID, edit timestamp, original message values. Prepared statement PSTMT equals connection. Prepare statements go PSTMT. Set string on message ID PSTMT. Set hint woe user ID PSTMT. Set timestamp free edit timestamp PSTMT. Set string for original message PSTMT. Execute update catch SQL exception EE. Print stack trace. In both examples, proper error handling and input sanitization are crucial to prevent security vulnerabilities. Consider using prepared statements to prevent SQL injection attacks. From a security perspective, ensure that only authorized users can access and modify message edit history. Implement role-based access control to restrict access to sensitive data. Regularly review audit logs to identify any suspicious activity related to message edits. In addition, consider using cryptographic techniques to ensure the integrity of the edit history data. For example, you could use digital signatures to verify that the edit history has not been tampered with. Furthermore, to ensure the privacy of users, consider anonymizing or pseudonymizing edit history data. This can help to protect the identity of users while still allowing you to track message edits. In conclusion, implementing message edit tracking requires careful consideration of both technical and security aspects. By following the guidelines outlined above, you can create a robust and secure message edit tracking system. Let us also consider more advanced techniques for tracking message edits. One approach is to use message queues to asynchronously process edit events. When a message is edited, an event is placed on a message queue. A separate process then consumes the events from the queue and updates the edit history database. This can improve the performance and scalability of the system. Another approach is to use a distributed ledger technology such as blockchain to store the edit history. This can provide a tamper-proof and transparent record of all message edits. However, it is important to consider the performance and storage implications of using a blockchain. Additionally, consider implementing data retention policies for the edit history data. Determine how long the data should be retained and establish procedures for archiving or deleting the data when it is no longer needed. This can help to comply with data privacy regulations and reduce storage costs. Furthermore, regularly review the message edit tracking system to ensure that it is functioning properly and meeting the needs of the organization. Make adjustments as needed to improve performance, security, or usability. Remember that message edit tracking is an ongoing process that requires continuous attention and improvement. Finally, let's consider the ethical implications of tracking message edits. It is important to be transparent with users about the fact that their message edits are being tracked. Provide users with clear information about how the data is being used and how their privacy is being protected. Respect users' right to privacy and allow them to opt out of message edit tracking if they choose. In addition, be mindful of the potential for abuse of message edit tracking data. Avoid using the data to discriminate against users or to make decisions that could negatively impact their lives. Use the data only for legitimate purposes and in a manner that is consistent with ethical principles. By considering the ethical implications of message edit tracking, you can ensure that the system is used in a responsible and beneficial manner.